Hi, welcome to the channel. Welcome back if you're a current subscriber. Today I'm analyzing Gypsy Rose's most recent live stream, and this of course comes from a channel called Conspiracy. I'll leave the link to the full video in the description box below. Let's get started.
Okay, so I guess the first topic I want to talk about is the show. So I know a lot of you have been asking in my comment sections, is there going to be a season 3? Okay. So what happened with that is season 2 ended and we were not sure if we were going to get picked up for a season 3 or not. So we were in a time period of where it's like we're not filming. And life happens, you know, stuff was happening. Like I got off a parole and they wanted to make sure they captured that just in case there would have been a season 3.
So right off the bat, there's a lot going on, of course, with the TikTok format, the way gifts are set up, the way that people are gifting and doing all kinds of things. So it's very difficult to see fully her face in every single bit of this, but generally what we are seeing is her gradually start to grow more uncomfortable as she starts to speak about a season 2 and season 3 of her Lifetime show, Life After Lockup. At first we see her eye accessing downwards as she says, "What should we talk about?" The show. That's going to set the expectation of how she should be seen eye accessing throughout this. And eye accessing is considering what you're going to say next, thinking about things, recalling things. So that's what eye accessing is, and that's what we see her immediately do. Nothing deceptive or wrong about that. That's just, again, going to set the expectation for how we should see her eye access throughout all of this. It really should be upwards or down that direction. Aside from that, we're going to see her eyes shift that way quite a bit, and that is not eye accessing. That's not her thinking, what am I going to say next? It's her actively averting her attention from what she's saying, the camera, and facing her audience completely. She starts to talk about this season 2 and season 3, and we also start to see her move around. She becomes gradually more uncomfortable with even speaking about this. There's a lack of confidence in what she's saying, and she can't just tell us about what took place in season 2 and if there will be a season 3.
So we did film the day that I got off of parole. My friends were there, so they got to experience the whole filming process and everything. It was quite a night. I wish y'all would have been able to see that night. I know there was like little bits on social media. But we went hard. It was a lot of fun. I was happy to have my friends there, to experience it with me. But, I want to say when I was vacationing in Miami,
there's no real genuine joy behind her saying that her friends were there, and that was a great moment for her. She got to show them the process of filming and the way that things work. That was not genuine joy. We don't see the right muscles contract or on the orbicularis or a widening of the palpable fissures or on the eyes there that we should see. We're not seeing eyebrow flashes and forehead creasing where we should see it. So not genuine joy there, of course. Now on social media, which she's referring to in particular, most likely is the night that there was a billboard that rolled through New Orleans and she was there celebrating being off of parole with her friends. This particular billboard had a lot of photos that were awkward and therefore she would not be happy for her friends to have witnessed that, for them to be there and for that night to have taken place. She also drops her head there, covering that vulnerable part of her body. This isn't necessarily in defense though, just dropping this isn't a gleeful, cheerful moment where that was quite a night. That was a great celebration for her. And based on what we do know about that particular night, it makes sense that she would not express genuine joy, widening of the palpable fissures or an uplifting of features that we should see in this moment.
With my dad, Christy, Aurora, and Ken, I got a phone call from the network, and they let me know that there's not going to be a season 3, and the reason why is because Lifetime Network, their demographic of viewers, have an age range, okay? And so their age range is above my, I guess, demographic. So I usually age range the demographic from like 18 to 30, whereas their network, their main viewers are usually in 40s and 50s. So they basically understood.
she starts to explain why there will not be a season 3 of her Lifetime show. Now, the first few things I want to note here are that her movements are large, they're very controlled, they're not natural, they're not confident. So she starts to tell us how season 3 has a different demographic, and verbally what she's expressing is that there's a different demographic on Lifetime, that this, she will eventually say, is a cable-based show, which is not true, but that's why she's going to tell us, and her movements become large, controlled, her enunciations are very deliberate and slow. She's being very particular about her words, and it lacks confidence. It's not natural and most likely is deceptive. She again is averting her eyes from directly looking at the camera, directly facing her audience, and just telling us what's going on. And her slow enunciation there is also pretty telling. It's very difficult to lie in the first place, but to start being instructive and explain things as if she's trying to tell us the texture of something, how something should be experienced, and not something she actually experienced. It's instructive, and it's a description of something foreign to her and not something she actually experienced. And then we see those large movements. If they were illustrators, they would just be natural, and her whole shoulders and body would not have to uplift. She would not have to be large and controlled with her movements. It would be very natural, the way I am speaking right now. Furthermore, what she's telling us is that the demographic is different than what would be normal for her age range. It's not fitting for her and her audience in particular. But behind that, what she's verbally expressing there, if she were in particular popular enough to drive an audience to the show, that demographic that's more typical of that platform would not have mattered. And actually, a lot of people were taking to YouTube to show parts of that show. So obviously they found it not on cable, found it elsewhere. They were capable of viewing it. And those people, most of them did not seem to be 40s and 50s. And that's not widely much older than her own age group. And also is not in particular the generation that would focus on cable. Not a lot of people do. Streaming platforms are very popular, especially in the United States. So all of this again is not true, and we know this, but it's something to note here as to why her movements become uplifted, controlled, and she's describing this as if it's foreign. She's separating herself from this narrative, shifting referentially from, I had the season of this show, I had the show, to, there's this demographic, you know, she's not part of, and that's not necessarily relevant to why she didn't get a season 3.
And this is the problem that we had been having from the first season and the second season. We were seeing that a lot of the viewers that are interested in watching my story and watching my life unfold, we're part of a generation that has streaming. We want to watch it on streaming. Well, Lifetime is a network based on cable. And so there was so many people that's like, I can't find it. Where do I find your show? And I'm like, it's on cable. And so a lot of people had to go on apps like Friendly or Next Day on the Lifetime app. So it was not as available as a potential streaming service could have been to our show. So in a sense, we, over the course of, these seasons, we started to see that the partnership between my show and the network, we tried to, make it merge in a way that it was mutually beneficial, but we're seeing that.
Again, her illustrators are very off, and her attention is averted from the camera and her audience, and we're seeing more of those controlled, deliberate movements, and particular words, and slow enunciations as she's describing things that are both related to her and not at all related to her, where there's this referential shift between I, we, and taking direct ownership over this narrative, and the show, the partnership, the cable, the platform, words such as that that's more distancing and away from her narrative and not necessarily directly relevant to her. She starts to do self-grooming behaviors, a bit of nervousness there, and her eyes avert, of course. As she's discussing, she had these issues with season 2, she had these concerns. She says we, and then you see that self-grooming behavior there, her brushing her hair away from her face, averting her eyes away from the camera. We see all of these sudden movements that aren't in line with the uplifted shoulders and controlled movements that are more her just trying to describe something that's seemingly foreign, that she believes or may believe that viewers don't actually know anything about. This also puts herself in a superior position to her audience, where she gets to be this teacher of some sort and everyone else doesn't really know what she's talking about. They don't know anything about this process. Everyone's brand new to the Earth and nobody has ever been on film except for Gypsy Rose. And that's very much what we're seeing here. Someone explaining, being instructive, and being deliberate and describing something foreign because it's not really even directly related to her. These are not things that actually took place. I'm going to say allegedly, most likely, but there's certainly some discomfort in places we shouldn't see it and referential shifting, which is more typical of someone who is not telling you, I did this was my experience. What we should hear is her saying things along the lines of, I had this season of the show and I got this call and I was told that there would not be a season 3. They told me that it just wasn't my demographic and I'm sorry about that, but there will not be a season 3. Unfortunately, I had these concerns before. What we are seeing instead is a whole range of a story of something foreign to her because it most likely did not take place. And that, along with the nonverbal cues where her shoulders are having to uplift and she has those controlled large movements that are not natural and confident, and then her eyes averting from the camera. Not downward, this is not eye accessing, not upward. Though we do get moments of that, that is not largely what she's doing throughout this entire video. Then the hair touching as she starts to describe, she had these concerns with season 2 as well, and now they're popping up again with season 3 and there won't be a season 3. She starts to describe a partnership with a production company with Lifetime and discusses this partnership and the explanation of how this is a mutual departing and this was actually her entire choice and then it wasn't the demographics at all.
As the week before the final episode came out. And that whole thing happened with the Easter pictures that Ken and I had taken her to go see the Easter Bunny, and we put the heart emoji over her face, and someone used AI to try to remove it, but they plastered another baby's face on it, or it wasn't her. At the end of the day, it wasn't her. So I tell the network about it, and they're like, well, since someone has been trying to put Aurora's face out there, wouldn't it be powerful? Wouldn't it be better for it to come from you and give you the opportunity and you the power back instead of all these other people trying to sneak pictures of her and everything? And I'm like, no. And they're like, we can look into possibly a bump up in pay of the episode if you unblur her face. Okay? No amount of money thrown at me is gonna make me change my mind. I don't want to show my daughter's face. I am trying to respect her privacy. And yes, I'm a mom. I would love to be one of those moms that could post her kids on Facebook and you know, enjoy being.
So now she's starting to discuss her baby Aurora's privacy, and her narrative here is that someone online exposed her baby's face, so now Lifetime has told her that it would be more powerful to her, it would be a reclaiming of power to her if she were to then more nationally or globally show her baby's face on Lifetime. And just a lot doesn't make sense there. I know most of you already know this, but of course, a production company isn't going to tell you, go ahead and reclaim your power by now showing your baby globally since someone did it online. It doesn't make sense for her to tell this production company anything about her baby and her baby's privacy, not her own baby's actual face, and it's a different baby's face. None of that should matter. You all know this, but again, with the large controlled movements and definitely a lot of Duper's delight here. The dopamine release when she believes that this is something that nobody's going to question her about, she is going to fool people with, and we're very much seeing a lot of that in this one clip where she's discussing Aurora and Aurora's privacy and allegedly getting some offer of a pay bump. What we're not seeing is this downward glabella furrowing, the muscle there between the eyebrows. Any anger, any disgust about this, or any doubt or skepticism about this, we're not seeing her consider this genuinely with eye accessing. Should I do this? Should I not? Or even recalling any moment where she genuinely did have to consider this. Instead, we see her chin go down as she says, no. And it's not a strong no, it's not a definite no. Again, verbally what she's saying doesn't make sense. She allegedly had people online expose some other baby's face, and then she told the production company about it, which they don't necessarily need to know about. Unless she had full intentions of putting the baby on Lifetime in the first place, it would be irrelevant. She would have just told them, I'm sorry, I'm not doing this, and they would have left it alone. most likely. And the large control movements, the slow enunciations, her being deliberate with how she's speaking, what she's saying, her distancing language, and the lack of anger or disgust, the lack of glabella furrowing downwards, or anything that indicates this was a definite no for her, and that no amount of money really would have been enough. We see a lot of Duper's delight there pop up as she says this. She actually wouldn't have minded at all.
A mom that way, showing how beautiful my daughter is. I would love to be that kind of mom. I scroll past my friends on Facebook all the time taking pictures of their kids, and I'm like, oh God, I wish I could do that. But because I am who I am, and because these people that have opposing opinions of me, or very strong opinions of me, that they take it far beyond a dislike for me, should I say, they take it beyond that, and I'm not gonna put her in that position. So I'm trying to do what I can to protect her. So I was like, with respect, no, I turned down your offer. I'm not gonna accept more money just to unblur her face. And this is all things, everything that I'm telling you right now, I'm only able to tell you because I'm no longer under a NDA with the network. I'm no longer under any sort of gag order where it's like, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that. It would be a breach of contract if you do this or if you do that. It's all over now. So what you see is what you get now. The muzzle is off.
Again, the self-grooming behaviors pop up and her attention's averted from the camera. She's not just confidently directly telling us. We're not seeing eyebrow raising or forehead creasing where we should see it. We're not seeing downward glabella furrowing in moments where she's expressing something that should cause anger or disagreement, skepticism of some sort. We're seeing jaw shifting, which indicates disagreement and discomfort around her child being beautiful, posting that online, showing that off. And then again, when she's saying that she would not have taken up the offer to put her baby on television in the first place.
And learning what are my priorities in life? What is the meaning of me? Who am I? And I think that, if we take away all of the content that gets put about me, the narratives that get put out there, just look at, it was breaking news that I cut my hair. I got a new haircut. Okay. But if you take away all of that extra content from creators, the reality is I never got to figure out who I am. And so, yeah, I'm gonna be 50 different versions of me. I do change. I grow. And some things stay the same. Because maturing comes with time. Time I didn't have. And in prison is supposed to be reform. Okay, in a lot of ways, prison is actually just a babysitter. It's an adult babysitter. I have seen countless times.
So verbally here, what she's saying is that she was in prison. Prison is supposed to be reformed for people, but in a lot of ways it's just a babysitter, which is in conflict with other interviews that she has done where she says that she took a GED class, she really worked on herself, she focused on herself, and in interviews again, she has noted that she has changed, she's grown. Now she's saying she hasn't matured, she didn't have the time to. She's this bit of a victim here where she didn't get time, she didn't get what anyone else did. And she's also noting verbally patterns of behaviors that she's saying are completely natural for someone to explore, for her to do different things that she otherwise didn't get to do in childhood. That's her narrative around this, but what creators are actually discussing is how some patterns of behavior that haven't changed should be triggering given her narrative that she was neglected in childhood. The entire reason that she got away with the crime that she committed with Nick Godejohn. Things that she's doing where she's supposedly just exploring and being 50 different versions of herself. That is also what she used to do when she was younger, with all the wigs, all the makeup, all the role playing she did with Nick Godejohn. And again, should be triggering to her, given that was allegedly something she did not want to do, that she said that she did not want to do. But non-verbally, what we're seeing is now a lack of controlled movements. That doesn't necessarily mean she's being more honest. There are no strong, committed, confident movements here. So this lack of commitment to these movements, as opposed to earlier when it was a huge commitment, overcommitment, and they were very controlled movements. None of this is natural, and verbally what she's expressing is in conflict with itself. On one part, at the beginning of this clip, she says that prison should be reformed, but it's just a babysitter. In the other part of the clip, she says, well, other people have used it to grow and change, so it can be reformed for some people, but not her. She has not directly taken ownership of this, of course, verbally expressing, I didn't take that chance. And in fact, in other interviews, she says that she took a GPA class, she did try to change, she was working on herself, and things that are in conflict with this very live stream she did. Then there is this point where she takes a sip of water, but is also not fully committed to that. It seems she took a very tiny sip. There wasn't a large gulp. Nothing happened in the neck, indicating she swallowed any amount of water. And she does do this throughout this live stream. Just an indication of her trying to give herself time to think about what she's going to say next and how she's going to say it. I'm going to end this here. If you've watched this far, I'm going to try to do a part 2 eventually, but thank you for watching. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Thank you.